In the final lecture of this section on coherence and cohesion, we're going to be thinking about referencing, what referencing is, how it helps the letter to run smoothly between different ideas, sort of like cohesive devices, and how we can use them in the letter to make sure that we address band descriptor requirements as well. Okay, so let's think about those band descriptor requirements to start things off. Now, referencing is not actually mentioned in the band descriptors anywhere from band 7 and above, but it is mentioned in band 6 as something that will limit your score from anywhere above band 6. So this is what is said exactly. Band 6 may not always use referencing clearly or appropriately. So you can score a band 6 if you don't use referencing clearly or appropriately, but you won't be able to score above band 6. So, very important question, what is referencing? Let's have a look at that. So, referencing, this, these, such, those, that, it, they, his, her, their, it, its, one, ones, all of these words are forms of referencing. So we can call them referencing devices to differentiate them from cohesive devices. And what they do is they point the reader in the direction of previously mentioned ideas. By doing this, they allow the writer to avoid repetition, save time, and increase clarity as well. I didn't write that there, but they help the reader to understand what's going on. We use them all the time, and often we don't even notice. And I can prove this to you by asking you, where above can you see referencing devices being used? What exactly are those words referencing? So 2 questions here. Where are the referencing devices? What are those words referencing? Have a think about that. If you think you've found them, you can carry on. Let's have a look. So these are the referencing devices. We have all of the above words. And here we're referencing all the words at the top of the page. So this, these, such, that, those, etc. This means that they point the reader. When we say this means, we're talking about the sentence above. So this means, the idea above, that idea above means that they point the reader. The above words point the reader. Referencing devices point the reader. We're pointing to the referencing devices there. In the direction of previously mentioned ideas. By doing this, so when we say this here, we're referring to the idea at the end of the last sentence. So the idea of pointing the reader in the direction of previously mentioned ideas. We don't want to repeat all of that language, so we just say by doing this. By doing this, they allow the writer, the referencing devices, allow the writer to avoid repetition and save time. We use them, so we have the object pronoun here to refer to the cohesive device, the referencing devices again. We use them all the time, and often we don't even notice. Okay, so you probably read that, didn't think about it at all, but you can see how common they are in our writing and in our speech. Now, I don't want to repeat too much in this lecture of what I've already talked about in the Task 2 video course, because the vast majority of people in this course will have taken the Task 2 course. I don't want to repeat any of that content, as I don't think that would be very good value. I think it would be a little bit lazy on my side. So if you want to learn more about referencing and how to use it specifically, then please check out the lecture on this in the Task 2 video course. For this lecture, we're going to be really thinking about how we can use referencing in terms of formal and informal letters and what the differences might be there, as well as look at some examples. So when writing essays in Task 2, we tend to use the demonstrative pronouns this and these instead of that and those when referencing ideas. There are some exceptions to this. This is also true of formal letters. In formal letters, we can treat referencing as we would in an essay. Keep using this and these, and often such as well. But with informal letters, this rule is loosened to some degree, and the pronouns that and those become much more common, particularly when starting sentences. So in a formal letter, it would be quite common to see, this is why I have been forced to write to you. You'd write the reason, then this is why I have been forced to write to you. Whereas an informal letter, that's why I've had to get in touch. We could also say, this is why I've had to get in touch, but it just sounds a little bit colder, sounds a little bit more formal, it's a little bit less warmth involved. So we often use that in informal letters to denote that level of informality. So let's have a look at a paragraph here, an informal letter paragraph from a student who struggles with referencing in terms of three things: word selection, tone, and timing. Have a look at this paragraph, see if you can improve it in all of those regards. Let's read this together as well. Now, I remember you showing great interest in learning about the culture in the country I live in. This is why I'm inviting you to come visit me and my family in England this summer. We'll need to work out the details so you can come at a time convenient for both of us, but I want to make sure the visit happens. There are loads of tourist spots near where we live, one of the tourist spots being Stonehenge, and another spot being Salisbury Cathedral. I know you have so much lined up for summer already, but just think about the suggestion and let me know. How can we improve this? Have a think about that, and you can pause the video and press play when you are ready. Okay, let's take a look. So quite a few modifications here, and already you should be able to notice that the paragraph has become shorter, which is an improvement because it will save time, it avoids repetition, it's a lot more concise. Okay, let's go through this. Now, I remember you showing great interest in learning about the culture in my country. So not the country that I live in, but my country, making a clear reference to ourselves. We are writing, managed to keep that word count down. That's why, remember from before, that a little bit more informal than this. That's why I'm inviting you to come visit us. So us is understood. Us is understood as my family. Okay, that's the difference between formal and informal letters as well. We can make the assumption in informal letters that a lot of what we write will be understood without explicit, very descriptive reference. So we can say, come visit us in England this summer. We'll need to work out the details so you can come at a time convenient for both of us, but I want to make sure it happens. Same sort of thing. We don't need to write the visit, we can just write it. I want to make sure it happens. There are loads of tourist spots near where we live, one of them being Stonehenge. Here is a case of avoiding repetition. No need to say one of those spots being, just one of them. We know we're referencing the tourist spots, we just write them. One of them being Stonehenge and another one being Salisbury Cathedral. So the referencing device one here being used to help us out. I know you have so much lined up for summer already, but just think about it and let me know. Again, this is a case of the reader understanding what we are referencing. We haven't mentioned any suggestion explicitly. We haven't said I am making a suggestion. We've just invited the recipient, but they know what the it refers to. Just think about it and let me know. And what you should notice here is that the whole paragraph sort of reads like speech. And it's the same thing when we're speaking with a friend. We often omit very descriptive, specific details, and we replace them with these referencing devices because we know the speaker understands us. Okay, let's have a look at this in contrast to a more formal paragraph. Again, same thing. I want you to read this paragraph and think about how you could improve it in terms of word selection, tone and timing with regards to referencing. The lost documents should be relatively simple to find, considering that the documents were left in the safety deposit box in room 249. The documents are in a blue plastic folder and are A4 size. I would greatly appreciate your help in finding the documents and sending those to my office location at 452 Edgar Street, London. The documents contain sensitive information, so please handle it with care. That is why it is also essential that they are located and returned post-haste. Okay, think about how you might improve that, and when you're ready, you can continue. Let's have a look. The lost documents should be relatively simple to find, considering that they, the lost documents, were left in the safety deposit box in room 249. They are in a blue plastic folder and are A4 size. So you can see here we're avoiding repetition, not the documents, but just they. I would greatly appreciate your help in finding these documents. So here was a case of word selection error. It's not those documents, but these documents. Remember, particularly in formal writing, we want to say these documents, and sending them to my office. So not it, that was a case of singular plural error, sending them to my office location at 452 Edgar Street, London. The documents contain sensitive information, so please handle them with care. This is why it is also essential that they are located and returned post-haste. Okay, so more word selection issues here. Something to notice is that we did repeat the documents. The documents contain sensitive information. Sometimes we can repeat the language, partly to add emphasis, partly because if we just constantly say they, it kind of reduces the power of the main item that we're referencing. So you could get away with saying they contain sensitive information here, but because they contain sensitive information, that's an important point, I've chosen to stick with the actual words here, the documents, because it just adds a little bit more power to the sentence. And you can do the same thing in your writing as well. So it's a brief look at referencing and how the referencing skill can be employed differently in informal and formal letters. As I said, if you want a bit more information about referencing in general and how it can be used, I'd recommend checking out the lecture in the Task 2 course. But hopefully this gives you a good idea of how referencing can be used in Task 1 for the general training module. That brings us to a close in this section on coherence and cohesion. So in the following lecture, we're going to get started on the lexical resource category, which is all about how to use vocabulary appropriately and in a varied way. I'll see you there.